Why overthinking destroys your dating and relationship success. Why overthinking stops you from finding an amazing relationship with an amazing woman. If you're a man with a busy career or your own business, then you've already successfully established the habit of taking action in at least one area in your life, your career or your business. But you haven't done so in the area of dating and relationships. You overthink a whole host of different things. Am I even ready to get out there yet? Do I want to meet women through dating apps or in real life? Should I maybe just work on myself a little bit? You see a beautiful lady and you ask yourself, should I go and say hi? What if she rejects me? What if I run out of things to say? What if she doesn't like what I have to offer? You overthink your own value, the contributions you could make to the relationship. You wonder whether you have enough to offer, whether you're fun or exciting or playful enough, because you see other men who seem naturally more confident. You may be a little bit more shy, you may be a little bit more introverted, and you get stuck in this endless loop of thinking and thinking and thinking. And what you have to understand is that it's not just action taking that carries a momentum, but hesitation in and of itself carries a momentum as well. We oftentimes think that and you've experienced that, if you get into a productive, positive upward spiral at work. You work, you reap the rewards, it goes well. Maybe you've experienced that in the gym. You go to the gym, you do the curls, you do the bench presses, you eat right, you get the nutrition in, you rest enough, and you see your body develops and grows in muscle. So you experience this positive upward spiral, and all of a sudden, it's not that difficult to go to the gym anymore. Maybe in the beginning you really had to force yourself, you really didn't want to go, but now it's just a natural part of who you are, and you almost feel bad not going. It's almost pulling you to the gym. Have you ever had that? Where you're like, it's almost pulling you, and if you don't go, you feel like something is missing? Maybe you play an instrument. Maybe it's the same thing in your job. You really want to sit down and write a piece of code. You really want to work on the next business venture. It's almost pulling you because you've taken so much action that a macro momentum has been established. You have to also understand that it's not just the action taking that carries the momentum, but the opposite as well. It's not just that if I do things that carries the momentum, but if I constantly overthink, if I wonder, should I go and approach her? And then you don't. Or even better, you see somebody who's beautiful and you tell yourself, if I really wanted to, then I could. Whenever you don't take action, that creates momentum of hesitation in and of itself, because not taking action is not just the absence of taking action. Not taking action means you see a beautiful lady, there's a stimuli, you feel fear, you make the conscious decision or unconscious decision or semi-conscious decision not to approach, and then you justify it later on. There's probably a couple of steps in between that I may have skipped right now, but that's kind of the general sequence of things that happen at a conscious or unconscious level when you decide not to take action, when you decide to overthink instead of putting yourself into forward movement. So that creates momentum in and of itself. And if you've been doing that for the last 6 months, 12 months, maybe your whole life, maybe you've only had 2 or 3 dates in the last 6 months, maybe you've barely gotten any dates over the last year, and you haven't taken any constructive, systematic action, then it creates this loop of overthinking. And then the next time you see somebody who is really attractive, you fire the same pattern of not taking action. So it's super important to understand that you have to have macro as well as micro pattern interrupts. At a macro level, you really need something significant to interrupt the pattern of overthinking. It can be a YouTube video like this. It can be a friend who comes to you and tells you you're going to end up in an extraordinarily unhappy relationship at some point, because the probability that you're going to be alone forever is very low. You're going to find somebody. But trust me, just being with somebody is not going to make you happy. I was married to a woman who absolutely wasn't right for me. The marriage was a disaster, not because she's a bad person, I don't think I'm one either, but we inherently lacked compatibility. But since I was so deprived of female attention, I didn't know how to generate a whole variety of beautiful options for myself. I settled for somebody because I didn't want to be alone. And I had this fear of, I'll never find someone like her. I don't want to lose her. And then I ended up suffering tremendously. I got out of it, I met mentors, and then the whole journey started. I have a video on this YouTube channel where I explain my journey in a little bit more depth. But point being, just being with somebody is not going to make you happy. So the external stimuli, the macro pattern interrupt, could be a friend coming to you and telling you, you will suffer if you don't figure this out. It could be a friend or a mentor the way it was in my case, somebody showing you the first couple of steps. This is what you need to do, because remember the formula of change. What does it take to make a change? One, you need to be sufficiently dissatisfied. If there's zero dissatisfaction, or at least zero cognitive understanding of the dissatisfaction, you're not going to change. In other words, if you want to lose weight, you have to be sufficiently dissatisfied with what you look like, the lack of energy, and maybe even just your own sense of self-worth, because you know you could do better. So you have to have a degree of dissatisfaction. Now that is not enough. A lot of people suffer. A lot of people are inherently dissatisfied with their dating and relationship situation. That doesn't move them forward. The next thing they need is they need a positive vision. You need to know what life could look like if it was better. If you don't have a concrete vision of what life could look like if it was amazing, you're not going to move towards it. How the hell are you supposed to hit a target at a shooting range if you're blindfolded, if you don't even know what you're hitting at, what you're aiming for? Les Brown says most people fail in life not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. So you need a degree of dissatisfaction, you need a positive vision, but that's not enough. You may know that you're unhappy, you may know what you want your dating and relationship life to look like. For example, I just want to have somebody that I can share life with, similar values, build a family with, somebody with some degree of physical attraction. She might not, doesn't have to be a model, but there should be some degree of physical attraction. You might know what it's supposed to look like, but some element is missing for you to make the change, which is the concrete knowledge of the next steps. These are the next steps that I need to take. The first couple of steps. You don't even need the entire plan for the initial change to occur. You just need to know the first couple of steps. I need to do this, this, and that. And then you can get going. Now, imagine this like a math equation. And there's one thing in the denominator that is basically lowering the probability of the change occurring, because all these things in sufficient quantity, dissatisfaction, positive vision, and the concrete next steps increase the probability that change is going to occur. But what stops us from making a change? Either a lack of dissatisfaction, a lack of positive vision, a lack of a knowledge of the concrete next steps, or the perceived cost of change. Not the actual cost of change, but the perceived, the assumed cost of change. If I change, it's going to cost me X, Y, Z. If I get out there, I might get rejected. If I start publishing videos on social media, I might get hate. If I go to the gym, maybe people are going to stare at me. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. There's going to be physical pain. Whatever pain you associate with making the change lowers the probability that the change is actually going to occur. So you need the knowledge of the concrete next steps in order to be able to make that change happen. So what you want to do is you want to understand that there was pain in the past, there's pain right now, there will be pain in the future. You're not happy now, you weren't happy, and you're not going to be happy if you don't change. That's something that you have to come to terms with for yourself, if this is actually true. If you're happy right now, well, don't change. If you're happy, it's amazing. But if you're not content with your situation, then understand, increase the levels of pain to an extent. But I want to give you a bit more of a nuanced view, because a lot of people in personal development know that you need to increase pain, right? Because we only ever do things for one or two reasons. We either want to avoid pain or gain pleasure. We want to move away from negative emotions and we want to move towards positive emotions. We want to meet our psychological needs. That's understood. But Gunther Schmidt in Germany, one of the best psychologists, he says that increasing dissatisfaction, Unzufriedenheit, pain, increases our willingness to change, but it doesn't necessarily create a feeling of competence which is required to successfully conduct the change. So if you feel really bad, yes, you're very much more likely to want to change, but you feel disempowered. So every now and then, stress and negative impulses and feeling really bad about your situation can create the initial burst of energy, or even anger, or a sense of feeling down or lonely. That can create an initial burst of motivation to want to change. But if you don't have a positive vision of what life could look like, and if you don't know the next concrete steps, it's just not going to happen. So going back to it, you need a macro pattern interrupt to overthinking. Somebody telling you that your life is not necessarily going to get better. Another macro pattern interrupt could be you making a very negative experience. You going through a traumatic relationship with somebody who may be a little bit off the charts, who treats you disrespectfully. Maybe you're just sick and tired of going through a whole 2 years of the C thing, 2 years of being locked into your homes or semi-socially isolated, and you realize this sucks. There's people like me and my clients who are in relationships with amazing, beautiful women who can have physical intimacy every day, who can cook together, who can watch Netflix every day together. It doesn't matter. And you don't know whether that's going to happen or not again. I hope we won't. I think we won't, but we don't know whether that's going to happen or not. It could be an external event like that. There's a variety of macro pattern interrupts that you have to search out. Because remember, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Somebody can offer you all the right teachings. If you can't even let it land, if you're not ready, if there's something within you that hasn't made the decision or is at least open to making the change, it doesn't matter. You could read the most advanced strategies on how to do drop sets in the gym, on how to optimize your protein synthesis. None of that matters. None of these advanced strategies matters if you are not ready to receive it. So you have to get to a point where you're open to receiving it. So to interrupt this pattern that you've created of overthinking, you need a macro pattern interrupt. But also I want to give you a couple of things in relation to the micro. Because it's not just that, oh, for the last year or 2 or 3 you've been overthinking, therefore it's going to take a really long time to interrupt that. No, you can create such powerful micro pattern interrupts, as in right here, right now. In other words, taking control of your mental and emotional state, that you'll be able to access other areas in your brain that are more creative. In other words, you prime a more powerful mental and emotional state. You can create habits on a daily basis that feed you with positivity. One of the most powerful pattern interrupts for negativity on a daily basis, and remember, your brain is always going to start looking for what's wrong as opposed to for what's right, because a threat can lead to death and an opportunity can lead to X much pleasure. You can only experience this much pleasure, but you can be fully dead. So your brain is always going to look for the negativity, and one of the best pattern interrupts on a daily basis in the micro for negativity, to infuse your life with positivity, a sense of certainty, is to listen to personal development and motivational and business audiobooks, or to read that, or to listen to YouTube lectures. This is really important because whatever you put into your mind is going to create your reality. If you expose yourself to any thought often enough, if you hear something often enough, at some point you're going to believe it. There's countless examples in history of human beings having been exposed to ridiculous ideas. And we wonder, how would they, Germany has some history with that. You wonder, why would they believe that? Well, they're exposed to it over and over and over and over again. And I talked about it in a different video, how social conditioning impacts you. Music, movies, the people around you, they prime your thinking. Your thinking is not neutral. It is impacted by the people around you. And if most men around you may be doing well in their career, but they're either with the wrong kind of women, or they're lonely, or they don't set boundaries, if you don't have any role model in your life, you're gonna pursue the exact same path. So for you to interrupt this pattern of overthinking, to get yourself to take action, you need pattern interrupts at a macro as well as at a micro level. At a macro level, you can get friends, you can listen to audiobooks, you can use free resources, you can join a coaching program, you can apply for a free initial consultation call. In the micro, you can create daily habits. You can go to the gym, change your thought patterns. You can actually start going out during the day, at night. You can start taking online dating serious. It's very simple. It's not rocket science. Yes, there's processes. Yes, you have to understand the algorithm on these apps. If you want me to help you with that personally, absolutely apply for a free initial consultation call. You can figure it out yourself, or you can get help, but you have to commit to taking action. So remember, increase your degree of dissatisfaction. Understood that in your past there was pain. Right now there is pain. Don't make it worse than it is. Don't say, oh, I'm suffering, it's so terrible. No, that's not what it is, because I'm inherently dissatisfied. I'm a high value man. I know I can do better. Dissatisfaction. But then that shouldn't be your primary motivator. Move to positive vision. Really visualize what your life would be like with that person. Ask yourself, what kind of a woman would I want in my life? Write 2 or 3 pages in detail right now of what you want that person to be like. Prime your selective focus, because then you'll be able to detect the target at the shooting range, and the probability that you're going to hit it is so much higher. And then get knowledge of the concrete next steps. Educate yourself every single day. Do something every day for 7 minutes, for 20 minutes. And by the way, if you do online dating, you shouldn't spend more than 20 minutes on these apps per day to get at least 1 or 2 dates per week if you do it effectively. And then decrease the perceived cost of change. Ask yourself, what am I afraid that I'm going to have to give up when I make that change? What am I going to get exposed to that I don't want to get exposed to? Jordan Peterson says, You can't get the gold without the dragon. What you most want to find will be found where you least want to look. So face yourself. Are you really, really afraid of rejection? Perfectly fine. I was there too. There's processes. You can expose yourself step by step by step by putting one foot in front of the other. You can expose yourself, and this threatening stimuli, which is called a rejection, all of a sudden doesn't seem so bad anymore. So, what you most want to find will be found where you least want to look. Get macro pattern interrupts, get micro pattern interrupts, take action, and apply for a free initial consultation call. Looking forward to speaking with you soon.